different ways, and Sean Payton is showing it all off tonight. A gain of 11 here, and off to the fourth quarter we go, where the Broncos coming off crushing back-to-back defeats, trying to get to 2-2. It's with no new taxes, as well as private investment from the Walton Penner family ownership group. Exciting for this organization with a new stadium on the horizon, as a flag is down on that carry by R.J. Harvey, who's been used much more tonight than he had the previous two.
Offense number 60, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Luke Wattenberg has had a penalty-filled night.
He's becoming a star tonight, not the way that he wants to be.
No.
He's just, you can tell by the look on his face. He's like, man, they're getting me every time I turn around. I can't get away with anything. You are right, RJ. Well, first of all, let me go back to the stadium. The shelf life on these stadiums just isn't what they once were. I remember when they built this one.
This is the 25th year of this one after Mile High Stadium.
I remember when they were building AT&T Stadium in Dallas. I mentioned to Jerry when he was giving me the tour, you know, one day they're going to tear this thing down, and it was probably not the right time to make that comment. You know?
Who said that?
I said that.
There's another flag. Another flag.
Snap infraction, number 60. 5-yard penalty, still first down.
That is Luke Wattenberg. Again, we've seen enough. We don't need to keep showing this stuff. You said that to Jerry Jones when
well, just because they just imploded Texas Stadium, which was state of the art when they built that. And I said, man, as nice as this stadium's amazing. It's the nicest stadium I've ever been in. But to think that one day, you know, not in our lifetime, but one day this will be torn down, isn't it?
Well, Troy.
It's a little sobering, to say the least.
Here is Franklin, cannot haul it in. He had found a hole in the secondary, and Nix dropped it in. And Troy Franklin just could not make the catch.
No, and this is what we talked about a little bit earlier in the game with Bo Nix. You're going to see that if he just steps up in the pocket, he doesn't have to run up in the pocket. Just slide up and deliver a good ball, because Franklin, he's got everybody beat. You just lay it over to the left side of the field and let him go. And he got a little anxious. He saw it. He knew exactly what he had. That's still a ball that you expect Franklin to catch. It's a little underthrown, but definitely could have been caught.
Nix to Harvey. And a nice tackle by Demetrius Knight.
But it is important, because I mentioned it when we came into the game, Joe, that Sean Payton, he's going to create some opportunities for Nix and these receivers to make some big plays. And, you know, gosh, when you get that look and you rep those things in practice and it comes up the way you hope it will, you know, I know that it's frustrating for everybody. Sean won't let on to it, I'm sure, after the game, but eventually they'll start hitting more of those than they've missed.
The numbers for Nix are good, but they could be better. 4 drops tonight by the Broncos, and that was one by Franklin. Here's Ingram. I'd love to get him more in the fold and more in the offense, as he missed last week's game with that bad back. He gets 11 here. And for Ingram, that is catch number 4 on the night.
I do think this Denver offense, you know, they beat you with numbers. They don't have a Jamar Chase. They got Cortland Sutton, but they've got a lot of really good players that, you know, is your third corner as good as their third receiver? Is your fourth player better than their fourth player on the offensive side of the ball? You get some matchups that are really favorable.
Crawshaw hits it end over end, and a fair catch by Tinsley, who is taking over returning punts. 40-yard punt. Jake Browning back to the field. 8 as far as pass yards per game, but he's had a 300-yard game tonight and 4 drops on top of that. Could be much better.
A lot. He could be at 400 yards. So he really has answered the call tonight, coming off that game last week.
Jake Browning facing a 4-man rush. This is Brown underneath, has a catch and a first down. Before that play, the Broncos had outgained the Bengals by 275 yards in this game. That would be the biggest discrepancy in the season this year as far as yard differential, if it holds up, and the ball control just dominating by Denver.
Well, it's been pretty inept. Last week they had 170 yards total offense, and that wasn't even their lowest total of the 3 games. They only had 140 yards total offense week 1 with Joe Burrow at quarterback.
Here's a drop by Chase. That was a good throw by Browning.
So this is an offense that just has, they've just not been able to get anything going this year. It's one thing if you come off a game, but you take a look at what's happened. They looked really good and did a lot of good things and went down, and they decided to settle for the field goal instead of go for it on 4th down, and since then it has just been a mess.
Bengals last 2 games, a combined score of 69-13. They lost 48-10 last week in Minnesota, and they're right on their season average for rush yards in the game. 48. A sack by John Franklin Myers. That's his 2nd of the year.
That's that interior pass rush that I talked about. The edge rushers get so much attention, but these guys on the interior are really good, and it's just a 4-man rush. And I mentioned how much Vance Joseph likes the blitz and how effective they are. They get to the quarterback as well as any other team when they only rush 4, and that's a good example as to why.
Went right through the rookie Jalen Rivers. 3rd down and 16. Pirine, the target, incomplete. And pressure by those 2 edge guys, Cooper and Bonito.
You know, I will mention, Joe, that for so many years everything's been built around Burrow, as we know, and they've not run the ball. And now Burrow goes down, as he has in the past, and you say, well, we're going to run the ball and take some pressure off the quarterback, and that sounds nice, but running the ball is a philosophy. You don't just wake up overnight and say we're going to be a good running team and that's what we're going to do, and it doesn't work that way.
Nearly blocked. Line drive punt by Rico. Mims, after a couple of bounces, is able to get up near the 25. Denver's ball still leading 21-3 as they did at the half. ESPN's presentation of the NFL on ABC will return to this and a word from our ABC stations. They get to 2-2. Broncos trying to get to 2-2. Raiders 1-3. They lost as the Bears blocked a field goal try at the end of the ball game to win that one. Here's Dobbins over the right side. And the Bears now have won 2 in a row, so good for Ben Johnson's crew. An 11-yard carry here, and McGlinchey out there delivered a good block. In the AFC North, it's different. I think it's different than we felt coming into the year, really because of injuries. I mean, Baltimore is just ravaged by injuries on defense. Now they've got Lamar Jackson, who hurt his hamstring in yesterday's game. You don't have Joe Burrow for 3 months. And there are the Steelers, who got the win over Minnesota. It ended up closer than it really felt. And you see Aaron Rodgers really settling in with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Did have that big week 1, 4 touchdown passes, no picks, and the win against the Jets. But he looked good in yesterday's win over the Vikings.
Yeah, well, you look at the AFC North, like you mentioned, the injuries, and Baltimore losing 5 starters in yesterday's ball game. They were already banged up prior to that with some key guys, and it changes everything. And you're right, Pittsburgh, all of a sudden they're on top of the division, at the quarter-way point. And then in the AFC West, Kansas City, everyone was kind of writing them off a couple of weeks ago. That was even though Baltimore beat up like we talked about, that was a nice performance on their part.
Makes a difference having Worthy back too, as Dobbins, who's over 70 yards in the game rushing, gets 3. Brought down by Chris Jenkins.
Yeah, if he wasn't splitting carries, maybe he might be close to hitting 100 already. But I like what they've done with R.J. Harvey. But a big part of this, as far as rushing numbers, if you're going to get to that 100-yard mark, is in games like this. You've got an 18 minutes to play. Convert here on 3rd down. You're going to run the ball a little bit more. That's when those rushing totals really go up.
It's 3rd down and 1. Nick's out to his right. Spinning catch by Mims. And a first down for Denver. Just to put names to the injuries for the Ravens yesterday, they lost Lamar Jackson, Roquan Smith, Ronnie Stanley, their left tackle, Nate Wiggins, and Marlon Humphrey. And they were already without Matabike. I mean, at some point, it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, you just don't have enough to compete, and John Harbaugh's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, I understand that. I will say also, though, that, we had him last week against Detroit before, Matabike missed that game, but he's out now for the year, they announced. But they didn't look good in that game.
Here's a toss to Dobbins on first down. Not much. Pretty well played, and it was Hendrickson with help from Mike Pinnell.
But you get average in a hurry when you start losing a few key guys, as we know, and none more so than this Bengals team when you lose Joe Burrow. There's just not but 1 or 2 quarterbacks in this league that could carry a franchise the way Joe Burrow has been asked to do it. I mean, he hasn't had much of an offensive line. He's had no running game. Defense has struggled here in recent years, and it's been him and the wide receivers.
Dobbins still working hard. Wow, strong run and a first down carry. And he was not going to be denied.
No, he was not. And the best part is the way he protects the football at the end of this. This is tough running, and they're trying to rip it out. And he covers it up, and he just keeps those legs moving. I mean, that's an excellent job. It's a good thing for young running backs that are watching this tonight. If they're still up watching this, that's how you protect the football, boys and girls.
The more you know. You got the dugout wizard up here. 15 yards away from the 100 yards is Dobbins. Uh-oh. How many is that, Spida? He doesn't know. He's got his hands in the air. That was 16. He's at 100 yards. Troy Aikman, he called it early. He's at 101, and that is the first 100-yard back that Sean Payton has had now in 38 games as the head coach of the Denver Broncos.
Well, congratulations, J.K. Dobbins. He deserved it. I mean, he really did. And I mentioned that you kind of felt that he was going to lean on the run game a little bit more tonight, Sean Payton, that is. And J.K. Dobbins has been running hard. He deserves a 100-yard mark, and nice work.
Harvey now trying to add to his night. He's over 30 for the night. Last guy to get 100 was Latavius Murray back in 2022. And there's one of the great people and Hall of Famers, Terrell Davis.
Yeah, he was fun to watch, wasn't he? Man, what he did to those teams, and for John, and John got to benefit those Super Bowl years, 97 and 98, the way I got to, handing the ball to Terrell Davis. I got to do that throughout my career to Emmitt Smith. It makes a difference.
2nd down and 7. Broncos just plowing their way down the field. They give to Harvey, and a nice play by Chris Jenkins. Let's go to Lisa.
Yeah, Joe, J.K. told us this week that he thought that he was going to get 100 yards. Last week, he ended up with 83 yards on 11 carries, but he said, I was averaging 7.7 yards a carry. I don't know why they didn't just keep giving me the ball, but he said, Sean Payton, great play caller. He said, I have no problem with the plays that he called. But he said, I'm going to get it soon. So he had his eye on this. He thought that he was going to get it tonight.
Yeah, and Lisa, he only had 1 carry in the 4th quarter.
I don't know if he thought he'd get it on 16 carries. That's a pretty healthy average.
Here's Harvey. All alone. Touchdown, Broncos. And this Bengals defense is just flat worn out. First touchdown for Harvey, and it comes through the air on a 12-yard catch and run.
Yeah, Demetrius Knight, he made the nice interception there in the first half, and he blows an assignment here. He's got to cover the back, and he comes on the blitz, and Harvey, he leaks out, and That's the kind you like to throw as a quarterback. So doesn't matter what your feet are doing on that one.
Happy feet, happy face.
Happy life.
Happy life. You know the rest of that. Nix, 2 third-down touchdown passes and a third-down touchdown run. He's had a nice night. Broncos on their way to a 2-2 record, snapping a 2-game losing streak. And the young man, Bo Nix, highest scoring tie since 1964, pre-merger. And the offenses just could not be stopped. And we'll talk about it. You're going to get to see us on camera to make sure we're still here. 492 to 147 in total yards. This will be the most lopsided game as far as total yardage in the league this year. As Lutz hits the crossbar, he wins a stuffed animal. And into the booth we come. That game last night, we can talk either side. Dak Prescott was awesome. Yeah. I mean, just awesome without CeeDee Lamb.
Exactly, and against a good defense. And I thought he was so dialed in. The game plan, he just was not going to hold the football. He was very decisive. He was accurate with the ball. He's been that way really through the first 4 games. He's played at an MVP level, and yet they've won 1 game. It reminds me a little bit of the Cincinnati Bengals last year, as well as Joe Burrow was playing. And boy, they got to shore some things up. Now, Matt Eberflus, their defensive coordinator.
False start, offense number 63, 5-yard penalty, first down.
I'm sure he was planning on having Micah Parsons, a Hulkster,
the late great. There you go. 1st and 15. It was a result of a false start by Fairchild. They hand it to Josivas. But just to go back and give you some of those stats you talked about against a good defense, Green Bay, first time all season the Packers had allowed more than 18 points. First time they gave up over 250 total yards. Micah Parsons had a sack, the only one for Green Bay. They handled Micah Parsons pretty well overall.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, obviously, if they don't know him, who does? So they obviously had an appreciation and respect for what he was capable of doing. And I thought Schottenheimer came up with a heck of a game plan. Hard to score 40 points and not walk out of a stadium with a win.
Here is Jamar Chase with a gain of 1. Singleton is out there. Not only has Cincinnati not scored since their first drive, they haven't run a play in Broncos territory since that first possession. Frustration up and down that sideline. And for Vance Joseph and his crew, they've got 8 straight third-down stops. It's 3rd and 9. Higgins won't get it. Brought down by Singleton, fighting his way back from an ACL tear last year. They are still missing Dre Greenlaw on the inside, who they signed to a 3-year deal. He hasn't played yet. He is on IR with a quad injury, and he is so good from the linebacker spot in coverage. When he comes back, and they hope he will, they'll be even better at that level.
Yeah, you would think they would be. I'm a big fan of Dre Greenlaw's, and if he can come back and be anything close to what he was with the 49ers, he's going to be quite an addition to that defensive group.
Here's another shank off the foot of Rico. He's had 2 of those tonight. I think when you talk about Cincinnati and where they are, they stretched themselves thin this offseason trying to keep this offense intact for Burrow. They gave the big deals to Higgins and Chase. Burrow already had one. They brought Gesicki back. And they're trying to make another run with their window with Joe Burrow, and now he goes down. And you're asking for more from Jake Browning, and if you're thin in other areas, eventually it's going to show up. You don't have Burrow with his cape coming in and just winning games.
Yeah, and you can do it, but it's just got to be different, and totally different.
Harvey Barrett Carter on the stop, a gain of 3. The notable injuries for Joe Burrow, and the Bengals fans, and Joe Burrow in particular, are sick of this list. He tore his ACL in November of 2020. He's been through a sprained MCL. He had an appendectomy, a strained calf, the right wrist surgery 2 years ago when Jake Browning had a 4-3 record filling in. Now the turf toe, which the description of the injury, the name for the injury, doesn't really give you an idea of how serious it is. Tearing those ligaments underneath the big toe. And so they say 3 months, they hope, but I mean, that's something that can become chronic. It depends on, the person and how bad it is, but it doesn't sound good.
Well, and I don't know the similarities in his injury compared to a teammate of mine in Deion Sanders, but it affected Deion the rest of his life. It's had quite an impact on him. So, what that might look like going forward is anybody's guess, but it goes back to what we talked about before, is for a guy who had the year he had last year, Joe Burrow, and to play as well as he did, to not even make the playoffs.
Pitch to Harvey, got around 1, forced out by Battle, but a nice run by the rookie R.J. Harvey, and he's approaching half 100 himself.
Yeah, I like this guy a lot. And you talked about what he might be able to do more of in the passing game earlier, and he can kind of do it all from what I've seen. I mean, he's a pretty powerful guy. And in fact, that the running back room has gotten so much depth now with Harvey joining him that Jaleel McLaughlin, who was the second leading rusher last year, he can't even get on the field this year. He's inactive tonight. So it's been a 1-2 punch of Dobbins and Harvey.
Nate Adkins, who the Broncos just got back, banged up on that last play, so off he comes. And it's 2nd down and 1. Harvey again approaching 100 yards from scrimmage on the night, brought down by Barrett Carter, a gain of 3, a first down. And we are at the 2-minute warning. 1:59 to go here in Denver. Broncos rolling tonight. Offensively, defensively, you name it. Leading by 20. Broncos defense tonight. Talk about their offense. They've got more than 500 yards, almost 200 rush yards. Nix is over 300 yards passing, 3 total touchdowns. Dobbins at 101. And a kneel down. And on the other side, I mean, if you're Zach Taylor, you're going to have to find a way to hold this thing together. I mean, they've got more penalties than first downs tonight. There were pre-snap penalties. There were defensive penalties that just were crushing. There were, I mean, you name it, holding calls, whatever. And if you got Jake Browning a quarterback, you cannot play a game like this around him with all the mistakes and expect to compete. And they just frankly, after their first possession, didn't compete.
No, and how they're going to clean this up and have a better outing against Detroit, who's rolling. Good luck with that. But this has been an embarrassing effort by the Cincinnati Bengals, and shouldn't take away from what Denver was able to do. Over 500 yards of offense. If they wanted to run the ball here, they could end up with over 200 yards rushing. That was quite a night. This game was over essentially when Bo Nix threw the touchdown to make it 21-3.
Meanwhile, Jamar Chase tonight just 23 yards.
Ready.
Pat Surtain is taking care of one of the biggest threats in the NFL. That'll do it. Broncos win it by 25, and Sean Payton, whose team has suffered back-to-back defeats in the walk-off variety, where they didn't trail in the fourth quarter until the final play. So they come roaring back tonight with an emphatic win, and a frustrating night for Jamar Chase. Zach Taylor, the Bengals, as both teams walk out of here 2-2. For our entire crew, Lisa Salters, Laura Rutledge, Troy Aikman, Steve Ackles, Artie Kempner, so many more. Final score 28-3. Broncos win it. Monday night postgame presented by Nationwide.